Groundbreaking ICJ ruling. Nations must act on climate change. Imagine a world where the devastating consequences of climate change are no longer a distant threat, but a harsh reality that's already upon us. Rising sea levels, intense cyclones, and unpredictable weather patterns are just a few of the dire warnings the climate experts have been sounding for years. But here's the thing. It's not just a matter of individual countries taking action. The United Nations has now ruled that nations have a legal obligation to limit climate change and can be held responsible for climate damages elsewhere. This groundbreaking decision by the International Court of Justice, ICJ, is a major win for small countries vulnerable to climate impacts, who have been pushing for years for the court to hear their case. The ICJ's ruling is only advisory, meaning that countries are not legally bound by it. But legal experts say it could be a significant boost for other climate change lawsuits pending in national courts around the world. As Maria Antonia Tigre, director of global climate change litigation at Columbia Law School, puts it, it's really groundbreaking. I think it will create this new wave of climate litigation. The case was championed by the South Pacific island nation of Vanuatu, which has been among the loudest voices calling for stronger international climate action. Vanuatu, with a population of around 300,000, has produced a relatively tiny share of global emissions from burning fossil fuels, but it's bearing the brunt of the problem. The country is looking at relocating entire villages from the coast, and cyclones have taken a toll on the nation. The ICJ's decision is a landmark milestone for climate action, and it's a very important course correction in this critically important time, according to Vanuatu's climate minister, Ralph Regenvanu. But here's where it gets controversial. The U.S. generally doesn't consider ICJ decisions to be binding. And earlier this year, President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the major international climate accord, the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. And this is the part most people miss. The ICJ's ruling could influence hundreds of other climate change lawsuits around the world, adding evidence for plaintiffs who are seeking to stir governments to act. The decision could also be cited at the COP30 international climate negotiations this fall in Brazil, where smaller nations like Vanuatu will continue to make the case for compensation from wealthier countries for the damages from climate change. Climate activists, like Vishal Prasad of Pacific Islands Students Fighting Climate Change, say the decision provides a new momentum for their movement. So, what does this mean for the future of climate change litigation? Will countries finally start taking action to limit their carbon emissions and mitigate the effects of climate change? Or will they continue to drag their feet, leaving smaller nations to bear the brunt of the problem? The answer remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The ICJ's decision is a significant step forward in the fight against climate change, and it's a call to action for governments around the world to take responsibility for their actions. As we move forward, it's essential to consider the potential international impacts of this decision and how it will shape the future of climate change negotiations. The ICJ's ruling is a wake-up call for nations to take climate change seriously and to work together to find solutions. But we must ask ourselves, are we doing enough to address this global crisis? Are countries truly committed to reducing their carbon emissions and transitioning to renewable energy sources? The clock is ticking, and the fate of our planet hangs in the balance. We invite you to share your thoughts. Do you think the ICJ's decision will be a turning point in the fight against climate change, or is it just a drop in the ocean?